Youngstown's very own Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
I gotta tell you,
You dig that?
I like that intro. I really do. I like that
good.
intro. That's as good as it gets.
You ever get stuck getting in? Yeah, the guy holds the one rope up.
I just put on the intro. Hello, everybody. I am Ray Mancini, and this is another round of Ray's Boom Boom Room. I'm here with my corner man, cut man, Mike Casey, and we got a very special guest today. And for those who like to indulge imbibe a little bit, indulge into the nectar, sweet nectar. I love all these terminology.
Yeah.
You're gonna like this show. We got a very special guest today in Tom Licks of Cleveland Whiskey. But before that, do we have to do it?
Well, do you want to talk about Avalon real quick?
Yes, we
Of
should.
course,
Because we're sitting here
sponsored by-
in beautiful Avalon Hotel, Spa, Resort. Hotel Resort, right?
Yeah, we're a resort, inn and resort across the way. We're in the corporate headquarters by the golf course, Avalon Lakes, and it's Championship Golf. And the inn is public. So, of course, we have the golf packages, and a lot of the golfers are coming in this weekend, and we're going to get rolling for the summertime, and
Hey,
it's a
if
wonderful place.
If anybody's going to come and visit the Youngstown, Warren, Trumbull County, Mahoney County area, this is where you want to
Stay here.
stay. Just
Stay
to
here.
stay. They got the
Exactly.
honeymoon suite. You know,
Yeah.
you could, refresh your little romantic night. Get the honeymoon suite. That'll get things good. That'll get things. Got chilled
Presidential.
chocolates.
And the bourbon.
Yeah, the bro. We got
Oh,
the
my
chocolates and we got the bourbon coming on.
you go.
Put their little chocolates on the bed and we'll let a bourbon on the night table. But that's true, Tom. This is true.
Yeah.
This is the only joint when I was growing up. This was the only joint there. I mean, it was like a trek.
It's beautiful. It's my first time here.
Yeah,
it's
it's
gorgeous.
a trek. I'm from
Yeah.
the south side of Youngstown.
Yeah.
Coming out, so it was like a trek, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
Now it's better than ever. Really, it's fabulous what they've done to it. And so, anybody visiting the Youngstown Warren or know who live here in the Youngstown Warren area, you know of Avalon. Take a weekend, be a sport. Take your wife or your significant other for a long weekend. And take them to the Avalon Spa and get the honeymoon suite.
It's not rocket science. Just do it.
And chocolate and
do
bourbon
it.
is
Yeah,
really good.
We'll give you
Oh,
the
the
chocolate.
chocolate and bourbon's
Chocolate
go
and
excellent together.
Dark,
Is that true?
Dark,
They
dark,
pair?
dark chocolate and bourbon it's amazing. Even people who don't like bourbon, you give them a little piece of dark chocolate, taste that first, then sip bourbon, because the dark chocolate's a little bit bitter.
That's right.
And the bourbon is a little sweet.
Right.
And put those two together, it's a great combination.
I want to talk bourbon. I want to learn more
yeah.
about bourbon. Whiskey is bourbon, but bourbon's not always whiskey, or how does that
No,
go?
so whiskey is sort of the general classification. Within whiskey, you have different types. You have bourbon whiskey.
Okay.
There's some rules around that. There's Scotch whiskey, rules around that, rye whiskey, and you can make it from any grain really that you want.
was
They're
wondering
all whiskeys.
They're all whiskeys. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad you clarified that. I was wondering what Mike just said. I was wondering what's the
It's a classification for
that's
it.
right.
Yeah.
'Cause I mean, I know wines. You got Merlot, you got the Cabs.
Sure.
It's the grapes.
Right.
So and I even learned a little bit about tequila, aging for longer ages, the different names.
Yep.
Reposado, Añejo,
yeah.
and all.
Yeah.
But so similar to
So and what we make together is a bourbon. So
Right.
a bourbon has to be at least 51% corn, and generally it's 75 to 80%. It's got to be distilled at less than 160 proof, so it's not the same way you would make a vodka or a gin. And it has to be aged in a new American oak charred barrel.
Mike, you know what? I probably helped we clarified or specified that I have a bourbon here.
Yes.
That Tom is the maker of, and this is why he's one of our guests today because
Cleveland whiskey
Cleveland whiskey-
distills Boom Boom Bourbon,
Yeah,
right?
They distill the maker of and all that good stuff. And how that come about was last summer, about last summer. I took a ride up with some friends and people who we did, a round of Boom Boom Bourbon, and did very well. And we did on a small level to see how it would go, and did very well in Youngstown. So we want to take it to the next level, and the opportunity to go larger, and so we met that they got in touch with you, and,
Yeah.
and I met Tom. Went up to his facility, which is really spectacular. You got
Thanks.
it's a real distillery.
Yeah.
you
In
know.
downtown Cleveland?
Yes.
It's
Very
real
nice.
distilled. If you go to Cleveland, you really would like. You have taste tests too, right?
Tours, right?
Tours and
We have
stuff.
tours.
Yeah.
Constant. In fact, this weekend we have an open house. We're doing.
I was
for-
going to say, do you have to book one, or can you just show up?
Generally, you have to book it, you know. But except when we do open houses, we do those typically every 2 months. But we're doing one for the Special Olympics this weekend.
very
this
nice.
Saturday.
So if everybody's in the area,
Yeah.
take a shot to go visit and take a tour. It's the most interesting stuff. You think you know, which I didn't know, but it educated me, and it was interesting. Man, it was fascinating. But let me tell you, so we this group that I done the round 1 Boom Boom Bourbon, we're just doing round 2, and so they introduced me to Tom. We did a taste test, and we did the tasting. Excellent bourbon. And I
So
finally
you're trying to
said-
figure out your formula at the
Right,
time.
exactly. You know,
Okay.
Mike,
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
it's got to, for me, Mike, it's got to be something different. I'm not a guy, if I drink it, I make that face, you know, that's not the one.
Okay.
Well, I didn't do that with any of
Yeah.
them. But, you know, and I have to learn a process, which I was learning, Tom told us. But finally, I was sitting there, and I seen this barrel underneath the desk. Like, I said, and I see maple barrel bourbon. I said, well, what about that? And Tom said, well, we kind of just make it for ourselves. I said, would that be a problem? He said, no, I mean, not. So we tried it, and I go, that's
Why
the
weren't
one.
you doing that commercially? I mean, if it was so good and you guys really
well,
enjoyed
we
it.
had really just started making it.
Oh,
So
okay.
we had released it. It was distillery only. It wasn't on the shelves, and it had done well in the distillery, but we hadn't put it out on the market yet. We also make it in smaller quantities because it goes into a maple syrup barrel for its final sort of aging process, and you know, so it was a limited amount. But I do remember sitting there, we had a table and we had all these different samples, and you and everybody else were trying different things. And I remember it was like, okay, that's good, but you know, what's the difference between that one and this other one that I tried, and back and forth. And finally, when we got to this one, it was clear that this is the one you really liked.
You like that
and,
one.
and it was, you know, it was different.
Yes.
You know, it's got that little sweetness from the maple syrup in it that the other ones didn't have.
And it's, what is it? What are we at? What's the proof? I forgot. 94
You know,
proof?
I gotta look at the
I think-
label, and I'd probably
Or
have
is
to
it
put my
4 proof?
glasses
There's the
on
glasses.
to do that. So
Go ahead.
yeah.
Because I can't do it. I wish I
Is it?
could.
I mean,
But you gotta kind of balance it when you make this stuff, right? You can't
yeah.
make it too strong. You
84
can't make it
proof.
too weak.
84.
84
Okay.
proof.
Yeah,
It's
so
84
this-
proof.
this is-
So it's a little
this-
lighter. It's a little on the lighter side.
42%, right?
This one's very drinkable. 42%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how long ago was that?
Again, we
like
we
a-
did it in the summer,
Yeah,
last
less
summer.
than a year
Just
ago.
last summer.
And it just got released November 1.
Yeah.
November
Yeah,
1.
it hasn't been out that long, but
No,
it's
it's
doing
good.
really well.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So,
how
yeah.
does it,
doing-
numbers wise, do you
it's
like
doing-
it?
Yeah, I think it's doing great.
Well,
And you just won maybe not won an award, but got an award at a prestigious
Yeah, so
festival.
we entered it. It was the first competition we entered with that, with the Boom Boom Bourbon. It was the San Francisco International Spirits Competition. It's the most renowned, respected one around the world. So if you get a medal there, it's really something. And it won a bronze medal.
How many did you
know,
send?
Maybe
How many different
next year.
times?
That's the only one we entered this
Really?
year.
Why do you think it would do well?
Yeah.
Or obviously you
I-
hoped it would.
I just hoped
Took
it
the
would. I
shot,
thought it was a
took the
good
shot.
quality product.
Yeah.
It's blind taste testings, and you know, so getting a bronze there is pretty significant. And you know, hopefully we'll keep making it better, and maybe someday we'll get a gold out of it.
Right.
That's what we
Hey,
got to do.
And plus, it would have
Well,
justified.
he likes to win.
Right.
He
Well,
wants
I
to
know.
win.
Well, that's,
So
I know.
right.
I know. We came back
Let's
with
be
a
the
bronze, and he
champ.
said, "Well, what about the gold?"
3,000 entries.
No kidding.
Yeah, they weren't all in that category,
Right.
but there was still
It's
a lot of entries.
significant,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's
But
significant,
now, did you
yeah.
know he was entering it?
No, I didn't know that until
So how'd
after-
you find out, or did you tell him, or how did it
we
work?
won. After
Yeah.
we won, I didn't think they wanted me to know unless we did anything.
Yeah,
Is that true?
Well, maybe.
I maybe told them, but the
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
the team, you know, the guys that
yeah.
brought me into the deal. No, they didn't tell me anything until after we found out we won.
yeah.
But look, I mean, I'm honored, I'm flattered, but what it really does, it just justifies what we've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that we got a great quality product. You can say it all you want, but something like this just
Well, I think also
verifies
it was
that.
a collaboration from the beginning in terms of tasting everything, going through it. We went through a pretty long process to get to what we wanted.
Right.
And then it wasn't just the maple syrup barrel, but what proof level, what's the intensity of the flavor, what do we really want? So it wasn't just, and I think this is important, it wasn't just putting your label on the
No,
bottle.
no.
I think this is something we put together,
Yeah.
you know, as a team. And that was
absolutely.
important.
And look, the thing is, Mike, we talked earlier, you got to have a niche. There's so many, it's like cigars, wines, whatever, you know, which I've been, you know, in the cigar business, and I've done the wine, I got a wine. it's got to have a niche. What's the difference between yours and other? There's a lot of good wines, a lot of good cigars. It's got to have a niche. And so that's the maple barrel bourbon, the maple barrel, you know, that it's aged in old maple syrup barrels with the maple syrup scraped out, of course, but it's still in the oak.
No, we don't scrape it out.
We don't?
We empty. We empty. So
You
actually,
gotta
there's-
leave
Better
that
yet.
on the
They
inside.
better yet.
Yeah, we want that maple syrup. So
Yeah,
it actually starts with a bourbon barrel. So one of our bourbon barrels, or actually a number of them, gets sent to a maple syrup processor, and they're aging their maple syrup in bourbon barrels. So then we get those barrels back. They're soaked with maple syrup, so it's in the grain of the wood. So we put one of our bourbons in there, let it sit for a while, let it absorb that maple syrup, a maple syrup that's already been altered a little bit because it was in the bourbon barrel. And I think that's what gives you some really unique tastes.
Is it rare for a bourbon or any drink that's less than a year and a half old to be winning medals and awards like this? I would think
Yeah,
of all
yeah,
the things out
yeah.
there that have been around forever and ever, that's
Yeah.
got to be like unheard of, I
Yeah,
would think.
yeah, it's pretty good, and yeah, we're really a technology company. We do things very differently. We're pretty much heretics in the industry, but we make some really good products.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, explain what you
So-
mean by that. You guys do it a different way,
Yeah.
more computerized way than some of the old school places.
Yeah,
right?
so normally, I talked about a bourbon has to be aged in a new American oak charred barrel. Nobody ever said for how long, but that's a requirement. It's called a bourbon. So normally you put the young spirits off a still in a barrel. It goes into a warehouse called a rick house. Every day you've got these temperature changes, temperature cycles, that causes a little pressure change inside the barrel, and the alcohol then's moving in and out of the pore structure of the wood. So now think about taking a sponge and put it in a bucket of water. Put in that water, you squeeze it. It's dry in your hand until you let it go, and then the water rushes in the pore structure. So what we do is we take the young spirits out of a barrel, because they sat in a barrel for some period of time, not very long, and then we put it in a stainless steel pressure-capable vessel. We put a measured amount of wood in there, controlling for size, shape, weight, moisture content, a series of variables. We oxygen treat it as well, and then we use pressure variations to squeeze the alcohol deep into the pore structure of the wood, so we get a lot of flavor in a relatively short period of time. But it also allows us to use other woods. So we finish bourbons with black cherry wood, with apple, with hickory, with sugar maple. We're experimenting with woods like pistachio and mesquite and pecan, and it's pretty interesting stuff.
We're not going to get that avant-garde. We're going to stick with the
Well,
maple.
I think
Well,
the-
maybe someday.
Yeah.
Maybe someday.
You might
the
go
pistachio
you
bourbon.
don't know.
I don't know if I can
You
do the
don't know.
pistachio bourbon. you
Don't
know.
tell him. Just let him.
It's,
But-
I'm going to have you
I would-
taste some of these.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would be little to do like the black cherry stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But I guess
well-
the point is you're doing some things that
It's
they're
different.
not doing other places
Yes.
because of the analytics.
You can't do it
right?
because if you made a barrel out of black cherry
You
wood,
have
it
to
would
sit
leak
there.
like a sieve.
Oh,
It would leak. You just couldn't do it.
Uh-huh.
So everything else, all the whiskeys are done in oak barrels. They're either American white oak or the European oaks. They've got a similar grain structure. But there's thousands of other woods out there, and we can get the flavors out of them. I mean, when we do other infusions, we'll move into some new areas here soon as well. But
What I want to ask you now,
Yeah.
you were saying earlier, all whiskey, rye, scotch, bourbon. What's the difference in the aging process, right? It's all an aging process.
So it's all
Or is
they
it the
all get
ingredient?
aged in oak barrels, but Scotch, for instance, is made from malted barley, and it's made in Scotland. Now you can make what's called a malt whiskey that can taste the same as the very best Scotches. We make some good ones here in the U.S. Some of the best are actually made in Japan right now. A rye whiskey has to be at least 51% rye. Bourbon, as I said, 51% corn.
give us an example, like brands that you're talking about. Like who does
So,
a rye?
is that
is that Seagram's or Canadian Club?
Yeah,
Are they
actually, some of the Canadian whiskeys are rye whiskeys. Knob Creek makes a rye. I mean, everybody sort of makes a rye, and we have a rye now as well.
What's a single malt?
So
You hear that?
You do.
Do you know
and,
that one?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
So that's one of the scotches. So
Okay,
you
yeah.
can have mixes, and it's actually some of the regulations around you make it all out of in a single distillery, in a single run. And single malts aren't my thing, so I may have some of the definitions wrong, but that's Scotch.
Okay.
They can do their own thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can I clarify this? Because I asked you this when I met you.
Yeah.
I said, because I heard, I'll never forget what you said to me. I said, we allowed to call it bourbon because they said if it's not made in Kentucky, right?
Uh-huh.
And Tom started laughing. He goes, oh, man, they've been selling that crap to everybody for years.
Now is that the old
Well, and the
guard?
likely
Is Kentucky?
but it's perpetuated if you're going to go on a Kentucky Bourbon Trail tour, which people should do because it's a lot of fun.
Terrific.
But 50% of the time, somebody's going to tell you that bourbon has to be made in Kentucky, and that is not true. It has to be made in the U.S., any of the states, any of the territories. And again, it's got to be the corn. It's got to be distilled less than 160 proof. It's got to, be aged, quote, but nobody ever said for how long. Which is the other thing. Exactly. Which is the other thing that's, if you're on a Kentucky Bourbon Trail tour, some people will say, well, it has to be 4 years old, it has to be 3 years old, 2 years old. The only age definition is a straight bourbon or a straight whiskey. That has to be at least 2 years old. That's it. Otherwise, you put it in a barrel for 5 minutes and empty it. It's technically a bourbon. It doesn't taste very good yet, but that's why we use the technology to change that.
So anybody at this keeps asking, "Oh, you're making Kentucky?" No.
It's
Cleveland whiskey.
Would they put their nose up to this kind of whiskey, or do you think that
we're considered heretics in the industry. There's certainly people who say, gee, unless you make it the same way. But I think they're the same people that, when the automobile was sort of changing the nature of transportation, I remember reading these old editorials on microfiche, and people may not even know what microfiche is anymore. But, there was an editorial in one of the Boston papers. This guy was ranting and raving about it, and he said the only way to get from point A to point B faster was to focus on breeding faster horses. That was it. And I think the bourbon industry is a little bit like that.
Yeah.
you want to teach us how to do it, how to open it, how to make it correct?
Well, just one click, because I want to see if I got it down right.
Oh, good, because I didn't even know there were special glasses.
No,
Did you?
Sippers.
Okay.
But I just want to say, so Scotch generally comes from
It always comes from Scotland.
Scotland,
Always.
okay. So so bourbon is mainly corn.
And it's only in the U.S.
Only in the U.S.
Yeah.
Corn, okay. Rye is rye.
Right.
51%
At least
rye.
51% rye. You got it.
And Scotch is
A malted barley.
barley. Okay,
And there's a
there we
little
go.
bit of barley in bourbon. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
barley. It helps with the
Barley,
fermentation
corn,
process.
and rye. Now we know the difference.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll forget it tomorrow, but for right now, it really makes sense. All right, Tom.
Okay, so
Yeah, all you got to really remember is Cleveland whiskey.
That's
And
all you got.
That's it.
You
That's
don't,
it.
you don't need
Is
to
this
know.
the shining star? I mean, how many whiskeys do you got going?
We have
now?
about 10.
Is this like?
What's he gonna say? I'm right
Yeah, I
here.
know.
Of
I
course.
wanted- I wanted to
it's
promote
our
it.
shining star.
I mean, is there another couple we've heard of?
So we do a Cleveland Black Reserve, which has won a series of medals. We have a Cleveland Underground that's won a lot of medals, doing really well for us. That's a bourbon that we finished with black cherry wood.
It's called
Nobody
Cleveland
else.
Underground.
Yeah.
See, black
And,
cherry, man. That sounds.
black cherry wood, and no sugar, no syrup, no artificial flavor or color. So it's different. So these are very, it's hard. They're all my babies. So they're all
you love
good.
them all the same.
There's plenty
But
that
differently.
we.
But
But
yeah,
different.
I know.
If
We
you
all
said-
have kids.
Everyone says you love your kids. I said you love every person. Said, I love them all the same with all your heart and soul. Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
but differently.
Yeah.
But differently.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, is there a certain way we should be doing this? You know how wine people. There's a certain way to
so
let
look,
it breathe and all that.
I'm not a whiskey snob. There are people who are, and there's plenty of people on YouTube. You can look at, you've got to do this. In Kentucky, they talk about when you taste it, you chew it. Come on,
You do?
That's what they
That's
say.
they say.
I think you just, number one, you want to enjoy it.
Right.
So you should do it, whatever way you
Accordingly.
choose. But there are a couple things to do, and so I'm going to pour a little bit.
Okay. Like some people, like if you mix it with 7-Up,
Or
they
ginger ale,
freak
make a highball.
out, man.
Oh, they
They freak
and,
out.
And there are plenty of people that will do that. I think that what you really ought to do, you said you just want a little bit.
Just a little, because, I got a coach tonight. The 10 and under girls. We don't need
Hey,
Coach Mike
hey.
showing up. You stink. Can't hit. Go to the outfield.
So,
It's not. I would never.
yeah. So this is
Here, wait.
considered a good whiskey glass.
Get this closer.
Okay, this is considered a good whiskey glass. It-
Because
of the shape, you get your aromas a little bit better. But here's the key thing: don't swirl it. Wine drinkers, you swirl
Yeah,
it and
they
everything
do.
else. So this has a lot of alcohol in it. If you start swirling it, it releases the alcohol. So when you go to taste it or when you go to put your nose to it, all you get is that ethanol. So you want to keep it pretty steady in your glass. And I think one of the things is people automatically stir
Right.
or swirl.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, so many of us, we learned how to drink whiskey by watching the old cowboy westerns, right? Belly up to the bar,
Right.
get the shot, shoot it back as fast as they possibly could. Well, that's because the whiskey sucked back
Right.
then.
right.
You wanted to drink it as
Right.
fast as you
Yeah,
possibly
yeah,
could.
yeah.
So you don't want to do that. So there's a couple of steps. One, you want to look at the color.
Okay.
Now, This is now a lower proof will be a lighter color. This is a nice light color, and but you have a little bit of haze in there because you have the maple syrup in there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is fine. This looks exactly the way it should look. In fact, with the maple syrup in there, you may even get these little, we call them sort of, sugar angels in there. You might get little floating tendrils in there, but it's because of the maple sugar.
Okay.
Then you want to smell it. So bring it up to your nose, smell it in, and ideally you part your lips slightly when you do that. I'm one of those people where, for some reason, when I breathe in through my nose, my lips just clamp shut. I can't do it.
Being a fighter, you
but it
keep your mouth closed, breathe through your nose.
It makes a difference. I've even tried it putting straws in my mouth and then breathing in through my nose, and it does make a difference.
And you feel it up. You feel it in your nose.
Oh, it'll clear you right out.
Clear you up. Right?
And if you had swirled it, it would have been a very different experience.
Okay.
So now you're going to sip it, but you're going to break it up into 2 parts. Take the tiniest little sip first, because you've got to acclimate. Unless we had been drinking this whole time, you got to acclimate your mouth a little bit. So wake up your mouth. So a tiny little sip.
Am I swallowing the sip?
You can swallow it, but you just want to really get it around your mouth. Swirl it around, get your upper and lower palate. Then you can take a little larger sip. Again, roll it around your mouth.
Mom, pay attention, because you're going to be doing this next.
Yeah. We've got plenty left in this bottle.
Or you're going to drive us someplace. One of the two, over to Taco Bell, I hope.
So then take another sip, and this time you can, let it linger in your mouth a little bit.
Okay.
But that's it, and then you notice when it goes down. How smooth is it?
Smooth.
This is a nice smooth one.
That was the only reason I could put my name to it. I said I couldn't do it if I made that. You didn't do that. Oh my God, face.
No, this is nice and smooth, and that little bit of maple sugar sweetness is in there. You don't feel like, oh my God, they added a bunch of maple syrup to it, so it's sweet.
No.
Which you could have done, right?
Which we could have done,
No,
but this is still a good sipping bourbon.
Supposed to burn a little bit?
It's supposed to burn a little bit. That's what alcohol does.
Burn, baby.
feel the burn.
Is that supposed to do when you smoke weed too? Burn a little bit, Mike?
I'm a mathlete.
Oh, that's it. I don't know either. That's what I heard. I don't know.
I don't either.
And I never saw.
You don't
I
live
didn't know.
in Colorado.
Everyone always talks about, man, you got to wait till it burns, man.
Yeah.
All right.
That's true.
Oh, I know my man. John over here knows. John, is that what happens?
John, calling him
When you
out.
smoke weed a little bit, you're supposed to let it burn.
Sometimes.
Hold
Is
it
your
until it
mom
burns?
watching this, John? Because I don't
Hold
think
it
you do
until it
that.
burns.
Is there drug testing?
You hold it until it burns. You hold it until it burns a little bit. That's what I heard. Because I never did that.
Nobody asked you, Tom.
All right. Anyway. So what I'm getting to is bourbon's the same. Hold it until it burns a little bit. That's what we're hearing, right?
But then you're going to swallow it, and then that's really when you're going to notice when
We
it burns.
swallow you.
Right. In the in the esophagus.
Yeah.
You ever?
And that,
I always think of Barney
You
Fife.
mentioned something about like mixing it and things like that.
Yeah.
Again, there are people who are going to tell you, "Oh, you've got to drink it straight like this. Don't put ice in it.
I water it down.
Heaven forbid, don't add Coke or anything like that."
Yeah, don't put ice.
I think you should figure out how you like it the best and drink it that way. But you should be drinking Boom Boom Bourbon. So
Any way you want it.
you want to drink it any way you want.
Any
Just
way
make
you
it Boom Boom
want it,
Bourbon.
you can get it.
Yeah. But if I wanted to be classy and I was in a bar in Kentucky, what should I
I was
order?
trying to find it.
If I got the Boom Boom Bourbon, how should I order it?
Well, this is sort of the personal way I do it.
Okay.
Don't throw ice cubes in it. Get some crushed ice, some chips. And then you can take it and drop one chip in at a time. And seriously,
Really?
there's
A
a
lot of
reason for
work.
that because it will change the aroma, it'll change the flavor. It's like a whole new thing. You can do that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. You get a whole melody.
I can't do
But wait a minute. But wait a minute, Ray.
No patience.
So I think it's because I get this melody of flavors. My wife says it's just because I'm sort of a cheap bastard, and
You wanted
and I
to
be
get
that too.
I get
Nursing
seven.
it.
I get
That.
7 drinks out of it as opposed to just one.
Right.
But and she's probably right.
So usually say, how would you like them straight up on the rock? On the rocks. And it was I give
Well,
them
on the rocks is good if you know what you're drinking. If you know that's how you like it, that's fine. But if you're trying something for the first time, you should try it. Take a sip straight, then add a little bit of ice, and get to the point where. But when you're happy with it and say, "Gee, I want it," I want 2 ounces of Boom Boom Bourbon, and I want to mix it with Dr Pepper. Hey, you go for it.
That's right. It's like when I walk into joints and I say, "Would you?" They would say, "What are you gonna drink?" I said, "When I have a bourbon." What kind? I said, "There's only one kind. There's only one kind." It's like my wine. I go in places. Do you like only one kind?
one right there.
There's only one. Yeah. Mom, you look like a highball type of girl.
You ever had a highball?
You like highball?
Yeah,
right?
me too.
See, when I was growing up, my parents, I remember with the ginger ale.
Always have
right?
the ginger ale.
There
Yeah.
you go.
7-7.
So when I put
Same
when I
idea.
put
Yeah.
ginger ale on mine, I get the meanest looks by some of these people. These bartenders and some of these whiskey snobs, man.
Yeah.
They don't care
You
for
should
that.
drink it the way you want.
Ray
and I
hasn't.
do.
Yeah.
Ray
And I
hasn't,
do. Tom.
Yeah.
Ray
Yeah.
hasn't paid for a drink since 1977.
Oh, my brother.
People just buy him
Since
stuff
Hoover
all
was
the time.
president, man. Since
Well, and
Hoover
if they're buying them drinks, they should buy them Boom Boom Bourbon. That's even better. Yeah.
Exactly. Where is this found now? Is it in stores in Cleveland?
It's in stores in Cleveland. It's at our distillery. It's certainly there's a lot of distribution in this area
Youngstown,
here in Youngstown.
in northeastern Ohio.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what's in Akron and Canton. I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
Tom, you might
Yeah,
have.
we're
to.
I think
still,
do
it's
some
still
research.
it's still fairly limited quantity,
Yeah.
but as we sell more, we'll make more.
That's right. It's because it's a prized possession. You got to go out and get
Right.
it while it's hot.
Tell Ray how you got started in liking whiskey in the first place. I found that fascinating.
Well, I'm going to tell you the story that started me liking
Yes,
it,
that's what I
actually,
mean.
which is a little different than the other story I was telling you about. So actually, I remember my parents having these dinner parties, and the big thing then was Manhattans.
Yeah.
And so everybody drank their Manhattans, and most people would
What's
leave
in it?
they
What's
would
in a
leave the
Manhattan?
little cherry behind. So that's a whiskey and a vermouth and a little bit of bitters and a cherry.
Okay.
Little maraschino cherry.
Right.
So once everybody was done and they would leave the dining room,
Oh no.
I would sneak in as a little kid and drink and eat all those little cherries that were full of whiskey.
Of alcohol.
And I remember my parents telling me the story about once they walked in the room and I was sort of slumped down in a little corner because apparently that day everybody had left a lot of cherries and a little bit of juice in each glass, and I had just gotten snockers.
Like
and
how old were you?
Probably 5.
God.
But-
Those poor parents would be in jail by now if this was today.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, probably.
Wouldn't be allowed to do
Probably
that.
Different, yeah.
Wow.
That's probably why we don't put cherries in these drinks anymore.
So that
yeah.
that's how you started liking whiskey?
That's how I started liking it, and but I started making it quite a long time ago now. When I was in the Navy, I was I was a machinist mate, was sort of like a mechanic in the Navy, and I had just gotten out of a couple schools. One of the schools I got sent to was distilling school, not for making alcohol, but for making fresh water out of salt water. That's a big, important job.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I got stationed on this one ship. It was an old destroyer. It was about to be decommissioned. It was a reserve ship, so the officers weren't there a lot. Pretty
it
much
was
run
docked?
day to day. It was docked.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much run day to day by some chief petty officers. And I got on board that very first day, and this chief comes up to me. He says, "Kid," obviously a long time ago, "Kid, you're going to be my apprentice." So he walks me through the ship. We're going through all these different spaces. Finally, he pulls up a hatch in the deck. And we go down this ladder, and in this space, he's got these stainless steel drums where he's fermenting fruit juice, just like it wasn't even fruit juice, it was like Kool-Aid, a sugared Kool-Aid that we got served. And he was fermenting that, and then you need 2 things really to make a still. You need a heat source, and you need a cooling source. Heat to boil off the sort of low alcohol, so concentrate the alcohol, and a cooling source to take that vapor, alcohol vapor, and turn it back into liquid. So on this old ship, everything's run by high-pressure steam. You run your turbines, your electrical generators, all your equipment on high-pressure steam. So you got pipes going through each space. So he drilled a hole in one of those pipes, tapped into it. We had a heating source. Then you've got also to cool your spaces and for firefighting and all sorts of other reasons, you have high-pressure salt water going through all these pipes as well, in and out of the ship. He tapped into that for the cooling source. So now he had a heat source, a cooling source. He had a little still. He was making what he called hooch for our ship and all the surrounding ships. He had this amazing little business going on, and I was his apprentice.
And nobody knew? Or very
The
few
ones who
people
knew kept it quiet. So this is a story, by the way, I did not tell the commander-in-chief
No, you don't want to.
when,
I can't wait to hear that
yeah,
story
yeah.
too. So you learned, and then pretty soon he kind of left that to you, and you started to do it too, or did
No,
it end
I just
when he
did it
was
with
done?
him. Yeah, typically you'd be on a ship for a couple of years and then you move on. So he had rigged it so he was pretty much there until he retired. And,
Tom, the way you learned,
Yeah.
because bootlegging was big back in the
Yeah.
the Depression era, and Cleveland was.
well, this was a late. I'm not that
no,
old.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, no,
You
no.
said it was
No,
over
no,
40 years ago.
I know. I
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
trying to. Wait,
Sounded
hold on.
like he said
Ladies
you were
and
born
gentlemen,
in
I know,
clarify,
you know.
clarify, my man was back in the
Yeah,
bootlegging days. No. I'm saying
When you
back
guys
in
were running shine.
Yeah.
Now, how
Yeah.
was
Moonshine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Back in the bootlegging days, right? Cleveland was the main artery.
That's what I hear.
From Canada,
Right.
from New York, Chicago,
Yeah.
as it still is for many things, because of the location. The process of doing it, was it similar? Obviously, it's got to be a similar process.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. You need to get a sugar source, starch or sugar, And typically for moonshine, it's like the cheapest sugar source you could find. In fact, I got a buddy out in California. He's got a little distillery out there. He goes around to all the bakeries at night, get the day-old cakes and breads and donuts and everything else. He ferments those.
What
You
the
heat it up.
fermenting process? Can
Yeah,
you
it's
tell
the,
me what
it's,
that is?
it's the
You
yeast.
just let it
the
sit
yeast,
there.
The yeast
or
eat the sugars, and the byproduct is alcohol.
under heat. That's
yeah,
what happens.
it's a warm solution. Yeah.
Okay, so he takes these cakes.
He
and
takes these
stuff.
cakes and heats them up. He mixes them up with water, adds some yeast, and over time he'll get 6, 7, 8, 12% alcohol out of it, and then he distills that in a regular still, and then when he's done, he adds a little bit of raspberry flavor to it, and he calls it donut shine. And he's got a cool little business
Any
out
good?
of day-old bakery products. Well, moonshine is moonshine. It's
What
it's
is
as good as any other moonshine.
golf course.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the kind that very popular on there? Apple
Apple
Jack?
pie.
Applejack.
Apple pie.
But Applejack, apple pie that's more of a moonshine, a flavored moonshine.
That's moonshine. That's
And that
Okay.
you add a lot of flavor to get it palatable.
Oh, that
It's a
stuff
kid-
you don't even know.
Yeah, yeah.
That sneaks right up
Yeah,
on you.
yeah,
Apple pie.
There are
That's it.
bars in Youngstown. I think you know the one I'm talking about. That give you they'll serve you apple pie. They have no
Yeah.
problem doing it.
Right, right.
It's crazy.
They,
And, but now, let me go back again a little bit. Originally from Jersey,
yeah.
Monmouth County.
Monmouth County, yeah, little town called
Which is
South,
that in the north, south?
South River, New Jersey. It was the home to Joe Theismann, who was Joe Thiesman when he was playing.
Yeah, and they
before.
changed it.
Changed it. I played football with him in high school. And
On the same team?
yeah, I was 2 years younger than him, but yeah.
Would he know you now? Like if you saw him,
No.
would he go, "Hey Tom"?
No, I mean, I tackled him a few times in practice. That was
I
sort
mean,
of
that-
it.
How
I
good in
mean-
high school?
He was great.
I mean, if you're going to Notre
I
Dame,
wasn't,
you know you're
but
great.
He was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was a lot better than I was because I played on championship teams, but
You were fantastic.
uh,
Come
Hey
on.
man,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
let me tell you
no.
something.
Here we go.
Wait. Let me clarify. For every high school kid who didn't get the minutes in the game, but busted his ass
Mm-hmm.
in practice, made them guys better. Don't ever. That's the one thing. That's the one.
No, you can't have a
game.
team without
That's
those
the
guys.
only game, any sport, but where it's truly a team
oh yeah,
sport.
for sure.
Practice them guys, get you ready for in the practice.
yeah.
That's why I mean, baseball, one guy can beat you. Basketball, one guy. Football, one guy
Yeah,
cannot
yeah.
beat you.
One guy can
And that's
lose
truly,
it. Yeah.
truly a team sport. And that's why when all these kids did, they played in high school. Oh, did you play much? No, they earned that trophy, man. They earned whatever they got.
Thanks,
I,
Ray.
No, I mean that's
See?
serious.
That make you feel
That's
better?
the nicest thing
You
everybody
get
has said.
knocked because you get your butt knocked
Yeah.
around in
Oh, for sure.
practice,
You do.
especially when you're playing on
dummy offense, dummy
offense,
defense.
dummy teams.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yep.
On them dummy teams, and
Yeah.
now you get the crap kicked out of you, and then but them guys, you're earning your bones there.
Yeah.
You're making your bones with them things. So anyhow, I'm a
I
big
tried
advocate of
tried
that.
boxing in the Navy too.
There you go.
I was worse at that.
Did they have a team?
No, when ships got together, you would.
Do you remember
you
the
would
Navy
box.
coach?
No,
What year?
no,
was it?
because I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
It was just like a shipboard thing.
okay,
So
well,
yeah.
ships would get together,
Oh, okay.
and you'd what weight class are you? And okay, you want to try this?
Well, what was the
and
year?
that was it.
What was the year?
This was 73 to 79.
Okay.
But I wasn't coached.
No,
I mean,
no,
except
no,
by
no.
other guys
I'll
who were
tell you the reason why.
boxing.
Because my trainer, Murphy Griffith, was the Navy coach for 50 years, from the 40s to 50. I'm sorry.
But was he at the academy? Is that
it was the,
yeah.
it was on ship for. It was
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
It was a lifer. You know. Career.
Yeah.
And from the 30s, 40s, he went into the Navy, and then he became a Navy coach. He trained Dwayne Bobbick, and then in the early 70s.
yeah.
And then Dwayne turned pro after Olympics, sort of to the mid 70s. Griff was
Yeah, yeah.
the mid 70s. Yeah.
You didn't do that well?
No.
Did you ever win? Are you over or did you win a couple?
Nah, you got to win a few.
You know, I could take a punch really well.
Okay.
That's it.
That's
I'm,
it.
I'm
Not much on
stopping right
offense.
there.
You should have sparred. You should have been a
Hey,
sparring partner.
I
Put
probably
it this way.
would have been a much better
Put it
sparring
this way:
partner.
it's the type
Yeah.
of guys that don't win a lot of fights in the ring, but ain't what you want to meet in the bar.
Oh,
ain't
yeah.
the type of guy who in the bar.
You know, I
That's
won
Tom. He
some.
could
I
drink all
won some
day.
bar fights.
I'm
yeah?
sure you
yeah,
did.
bar
Undefeated.
fights.
So them guys, you get you a shot,
Yeah.
they look at you like,
Yeah.
and you go,
Bar fights are a
that
whole
ain't good.
different story.
No,
Those
that's all-
people in Jersey and Boston, they still fight in the bars.
Oh, yeah.
They don't mind
yeah.
fighting over
sure.
there.
Sure.
By
you know,
golly.
good thing we don't have none of that in Youngstown.
No, we don't have. No. Classy. All classy.
Oh, yes.
Sophistication.
There's all different types of class.
Oh,
There's
okay.
high class, low class.
Sophistication.
Yeah, yeah.
Extraordinaire.
Right. Right. So then how did you get into the whiskey business then?
You know, it was really, I read an article about the changing middle, this is going to be boring, but I read an article about the changing middle class in China and how as people enter the middle class for the first time, they look for affordable luxuries. I saw that and I said, you know, it's not just affordable luxuries, it's conspicuous affordable luxuries, things that they can share with their friends and show off a little bit. You know, have the label out there and put this on the table and say, oh yeah, it's imported from America or Scotland or whatever. And so consumption of whiskeys from Scotland and America were going up. As I thought about it, I said, okay, this could be huge numbers, the middle class just starting in China, but also in India and Africa and South America. And it's an industry where you can't crank up production like cornflakes or computer parts. You've put these spirits in barrels for 10, 11, 12 years. So if this tsunami of market demand hits the market, there's going to be all sorts of whiskey shortages. And sure enough, there were. And I was sort of a technologist. I've always been interested in disruptions and everything else. And I started experimenting in my basement, blowing up mason jars. And
So what were you doing at the time for work?
So I've actually got a doctorate in marketing. So I do, a lot of consulting for major companies. And, I started a software company before this. But, this is the best job I've ever had.
Hey, man,
without
he's an
doubt.
educated. What's the term? Not biologist. What's the mixologist? I'm gonna call you mixologist.
No, don't. No,
No, that's
I'm
not it?
a-
Oh,
no,
that's
'cause
not it? Okay.
mixologist-
He didn't
So
mix
a
anything
distiller.
but chips
You
of
know,
ice.
Distiller.
From what I hear.
He's a doctor in distillery.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
The funny thing is, are some of those. I'm not one of those people can, get an advanced degree in
Well, you got a
distillation.
doctor
Yeah.
in another thing.
In-
Why don't you
in
just
other things, in
transfer it over?
business.
We'll just transfer it over
yeah.
to.
So
Yeah.
you see it now. You're sitting there and you're looking for trends. You're interested
Yes.
in this trend, and you're like,
Interested in trends,
this
and I
could be
thought, oh
good.
my God, in this industry where where things haven't changed. In fact, it's of merit that you make things exactly the same way. People talk about the fifth generation distiller. They've been making things the same way, and I just get bored too easily. I'm impatient, and the idea of something having to make a product that takes that long to make didn't make sense. I'm an amateur chemist as well, and because I'm not a real chemist, I made some crazy mistakes that a real chemist never would have made, and just sort of came across some technology that we've now improved a lot, but that would allow us to use these different woods, change the production cycle, change how we mature it, and we keep. I think what we make today is better than what we were making 6 months ago. That's better than what we made the year before that, and we keep doing it. So that's why I say, even with the Boom Boom Bourbon, hopefully
It could change?
It can only get better.
Get better.
We want to make it better.
That's a beautiful.
how was it hard to get other investors to kind of make the leap with you? Or did these guys you knew or ladies you knew and you
Yeah.
thought, I'm going to do it?
Well,
And
I
guys.
have some early investors, like anybody else, wrote a business plan, talked about the technology. The advantage I had in raising money is I could bring product
Right.
and say, hey, try this. And then I'd have them try something, and I'd have them try a competitive product. And, very often they couldn't tell the difference. And I'd say, okay, well, this one takes 9 years to make traditionally. What you're drinking here, which you thought was just as good, if not better, is about 24 hours old. And that just blew people away.
I was going to say, did it just blow them
Blew
out of
them
the
away.
map?
Yeah.
Off
And then
the
we've
map?
also done some crowdfunding, online funding. We have over 1,600 investors now, ranging from $100 investments up to $100,000 investments.
That's a big thing, Mike. Not just for fun things like this. I'm learning. I mean, I'm not big on crowdfunding. Like they started out with for movies and entertainment products.
Yeah.
But things like this, I buy into. You give it a shot, and then you get a bottle of bourbon or.
Well, and these are all owners of the company,
Right.
so they
But-
got
but-
they
but
got
they have
equity
stock
in the company.
equity in the
Yeah.
right. But right. Usually these the
Yeah, it's
Kickstarter
gifts,
things, you
right.
get a gift
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
But the fact that you could do it and it takes minimal amount. But for that, if nothing comes of it, you ain't gonna get hurt by it. Nothing.
Right.
But if it climbs, you can actually taste the product, and you have ownership in
There's
that
a payoff.
company.
And I've got
It's a
1,600 people
nice
out
thing.
there as brand ambassadors as well.
Are there?
They're
Can you
owners.
still invest in it?
Not
Or are
right
you
now.
done?
Not
No,
right now.
you're
So I
out,
got like
Mike.
30 bucks in my
Mike,
wallet.
you're out.
I'm out.
Mom, do you got anything on you?
Looking,
that you
I
like
was
to-
looking for some opportunity there.
Mom,
Yeah,
Mom,
we're gonna build a new facility here pretty
Well,
soon.
how
That'll
old is
Well,
probably
then
Cleveland
we're gonna
whiskey?
get you next time around, Mom. Because hey, do you get anything like this in Chi-Town?
Oh,
Anything like this in
they,
Chi-Town?
they
No.
got booze in Chi-Town, don't they?
No,
yeah, there's plenty.
Because you know Chi-Town is my town.
There's plenty.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah. So
But anyhow, we gotta get some Boom Boom Bourbon in Chi-Town.
That
But
would be
that's the
all right.
next. No, I am working.
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I
good.
got the guys. and
Do
they
you have
they
guys
want
selling it across
They
the
want it.
country, or is that? I mean,
Yeah,
is that what they do?
we're in 16. I mean, all of our products combined. We're in 16 states. We're in 5 countries, and just expanding all the time.
Is that possible that Boom Boom Bourbon can be in 5 countries later on?
Yeah, we can work on that.
How about that? First, let's get it in 5 states. Let's
Yeah,
work
that'll be
on
good.
that.
Yeah,
We're-
step
That
by
would be good.
Let's get
step
5
by
states.
step.
5
Yeah.
counties would
But
be
we
fantastic.
can we have that, and we talked about that.
Uh-huh.
Well, Chicago is one.
Next.
Boston, Florida, which I got to talk
Yeah,
to you about.
I mean, we did a limited release
LA,
here, and it's
Vegas.
done well. So,
Uh-huh.
So
yeah.
we're gonna get it, and we're gonna get across. We are gonna go nationwide.
Be big.
What was
It's
that?
gonna
What
be
was that? We're gonna try. We're gonna try to go as big as we can. You know.
What's the response of a traditional bourbon drinker then when they have it for the first time? I'm sure you've probably seen it in person, I would think, right?
Yeah, it's generally very positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell are you guys doing this? Or
Well, we don't really. First of all, we think of age as sort of irrelevant. That's been the measured term of, okay, it's 10 years old, it's 12 years old. We don't really do that. It's just, what's in the bottle? Try it. And generally, if people try it, they like it.
you have how many? Cleveland Whiskey's got how many brands right now?
About 10.
Will there be more? Or you guys, or
yeah,
for the
there'll be-
space you have, is that all you can do?
There will be more.
Do you have to get more equipment and stuff, or can you use the equipment you've
Yeah,
got?
we're looking at buildings now, and we'll probably in the next 2 years we'll build a much larger facility than what we have now.
You know, the beautiful thing about the mic is like Under Armour did that similar in Baltimore. Took these things and now they own the whole. It's a facility that's unbelievable. And what I'm saying is, that's kind of what you're looking to do. Obviously, a little by little. But what they did, and they took parts of old, like in Baltimore, they took these old industrial buildings that were no longer used, and they just put them to use, and it's a beautiful thing. It's to use it for. I'm a firm believer in taking. We could do that easily in Youngstown. Take some of these buildings that we have that are abandoned now, and or once were but still beautiful buildings, structurally strong, sound, and make them something.
Just a couple weeks ago, I did a tour of some of those buildings here in Youngstown.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
You never know. I think there's some great stock to work with.
Yeah. Were you right about the trend?
Yeah, very much so.
Is it?
There's been a whiskey shortage, definitely, and you see these big companies. They're all building much larger facilities. They're adding capacity, but they're adding capacity, and they still got to put it in a barrel and let it sit there for 10 years.
Right.
And then what if 10 years from now nobody wants bourbon? They got all this stock sitting in there, crazy investment. With us, we can ramp it up, we can ramp it down. I mean, we produce to orders, so it's a very different business model.
Is there a reason you picked whiskey over vodka, over wine, over Galliano? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, number one, by the time I started looking at this, vodka was already sort of getting crowded. But where our technology comes to play is the maturation side. So you don't mature vodka. It's like straight out of the still, maybe add some flavors or whatever. So whiskey was a natural one. Whiskey was this is the one that takes 10, 12 years to make. That's where the opportunity is going to be. If we can change the technology to make it and do it faster and do it better, we'll have an opportunity there. That's what we're doing.
Did you find that was hard to do, to change that technology, or did you already have a pretty good idea and it just needed to be tweaked, or what?
Well, I experimented,
a lot.
I literally was experimenting in my basement. I probably blew up over 1,000 mason jars.
Like, seriously, they blew up?
They blew up.
Why?
Yeah, because of pressure issues and heat and cold and everything else I was working with. My wife was convinced. Somebody was talking here earlier about Breaking Bad. My wife was convinced that at some point the police were going to knock on the door, break in the door, because the neighbors would say these guys have a meth lab in their basement. I mean, you could hear these little muffled explosions in the basement. And plus, every weekend I would take my pickup truck, go down to the local gas station, and literally empty those bins of ice, bring it all back. So I'm bringing in a ton of ice every weekend, and I got these little explosions going on. I'm sort of surprised. She was thrilled when I moved us into a regular lab. Yeah.
Are other people copying the technology, or
there were other
were you the first to do it?
Yeah, we were the first to do it, but there's other competing technologies. People use ultrasonics, they use cavitation devices. There's all sorts of things that can sort of smooth out the edges of rough spirits. I think we're the only ones that where we can use other woods. as opposed to barrels.
And you're actually doing it now, or
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of fiddling with it?
Yeah, so we have it within our Cleveland Underground line. We have a bourbon that we finish with black cherry wood as well as a rye, but we use apple and sugar maple and hickory and.
So if you use
you know.
stainless steel, you would have to put the.
But it's all inside those stainless steel containers.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And it
so
soaks it up.
instead of the
It
spirits
sticks.
being inside the barrel in a sense, although it's
So
cut to a
it's-
certain size and shape, is inside the stainless steel.
Inside the spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
it's
pretty
it's
good.
groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, honestly.
No, man.
Or maybe you do in your head, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm telling you that if you can make something.
Mike, I don't get involved with pikers, man.
No. I
get
agree.
on with
You've done
the-
your research.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
done your
yeah.
homework. But if you can make something that tastes like it's 12 years old and it took 2 days,
Right. It's a big deal.
it's a huge deal.
But it's not a consumer benefit, so I don't really talk about it. I mean, when I'm talking to investors, I talk about that.
Yeah.
But on the market, nobody really cares. Or if anything, they say, well, gee, it can't be as good because you only took 2 days to do it. What we can do, though, is use some of these different woods where you literally can't produce something. So, when we do some future rounds of Boom Boom Bourbon, maybe we'll, try some different woods in there as well to give it some extra flavor.
Well, it used to be. And then we talk about technology. Remember, you couldn't get things. Couldn't get mail until it took. It goes back. The
Right.
mail took 2 weeks, 2 weeks to a week to now it's 2 days overnight.
Yeah.
And and
Or email
Amazon
for 2
or you
seconds.
go
Yeah.
you call Amazon today and you get it tomorrow morning.
True.
How does that
Right,
work?
Right.
It's true.
I know.
I mean, so
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, things are changing.
What I know you're very proud of the label,
Yeah, I
front
am,
and
I am,
back.
I am.
What went? Tell me the story behind that. You're into marketing, so you know
Yeah,
how
but-
important
but-
the label can
but
be.
you know what? All I did was review. I made a couple little changes to it. They brought the label to us. And
Nice.
said, this, and that's where I say it's a collaboration. That the choice of the bottle, the choice
yeah,
of
yeah. We talked about the bottle,
everything was
the
something
look of the
we worked on
bottle.
together.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
look of the
you really have to have meetings on the look of the bottle.
Well, because
yeah.
look,
Yeah.
you ever see a lot of them are like thin and shaped the way they're shaped.
Yeah.
And Tom said, no. I said, this is the old-fashioned bourbon, bottle.
Yeah, it was solid. It had
So
some
yeah,
substance
and then
to
we,
it.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
great. Okay, so you know what you want and what you think initially is, but it changes, and you got to be able to adapt. And I'm proud of it. I mean that label. I'm proud. I like the old vintage look.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud
Like
of
the old
that.
parchment look.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's just it's good, man. It's just good, and I'm proud of it. And obviously, people agree with us because they're buying a lot of it. Look, I tell people all the time, Mike, I make no bones, and we talked about it. I said, friends and family and fans are going to get it.
Absolutely.
But there's always going to be the guys on the outside saying, "Yeah, they're going to buy it anyhow because they want to see it fail." Say, it's bull crap. It's crap. I told you this. They can't. So if you got a good product, but they're going to buy it the first time. Now, if it's sustaining, if it's the product we say it is, they'll come back for a second, third. Well,
Yeah.
stores have been selling a lot of it. So it's been doing very well because
which speaks to
And then-
the trend that you were saying, and then the quality of the product.
it's thus the bronze medal.
The bronze.
I
you brought
look,
home the
man,
bronze.
I'm proud of that. Mom, did you know you weren't here when we started the show that we entered into a Bourbon Olympics? I didn't know there was a Bourbon Olympics.
Bourbon Olympics.
In San Francisco, and we got the bronze medal. Over 3,000 entries of the tournament of a lot of liquors and stuff, but we won the bronze medal of the bourbon. How about that?
That's-
How about,
see?
yes,
Listen
they're
to that.
folks.
That's the
just-
studio
they're
audience.
clapping over. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What do you think the judges? I don't even know how many. Do you have any idea how many judges there are and how many rounds
What
it
they
goes
go by?
through?
What's the
I really
criteria?
don't.
Yeah.
It's all a big secret.
What do you think they liked about it? What do you
criteria.
like about it? As a not just hey,
Gotta
that's
be
pretty
color.
good, like
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
say.
yeah.
What do you say as an aficionado about this drink that you like?
Well, I think the flavors in it are subtle, and I like that, and multidimensional. So I think that, you think about what a standard bourbon tastes like. You've got vanilla and caramel and that type of thing, a little bit of sweetness from the corn, from maple syrup. It's more of a sweet mapley flavor, but then you have that caramelization that occurs, I think, when the maple syrup is in the barrel, aging the maple syrup. You get a different interaction, and it's I don't know, it's hard to describe, but I think it's just a good flavor, and it's without making it overly sweet. I'm not a big fan of the real sweet.
No,
type
I
things.
didn't want that.
And you can make them so easily.
No.
This one has just a little subtle. You
Little
gotta
subtle.
you gotta wait for it. You gotta be patient.
And that's like we talked about them. Like before, I say like a lot wines. They make these candy wines. They make it like, oh God, it's a candy in a bottle. Nobody
But
wants that.
there's some that that's the thing they like. But this
Oh,
is a
no,
more
no, but
traditional,
right,
sophisticated
I would like to
bourbon,
think.
right?
And
We
I
like to
think
think so.
this is also, I think, what's important. I mean, we laid out a lot of different things for Ray to try. This is what he selected, and I think that's a big deal. We didn't just slap a label on something. It wasn't like this. Okay, we're going to license your name and do this. This is his. This is a collaboration, and I think that's you don't find that all the time.
Because I like a little sweetness in things. I mean, the wine, not again, but you want to taste the grapes. You want to take when you taste wine, you go, oh man, you get nice aftertaste, and so as they say, it's a nice finish, right? Well, this has a very nice finish, and that's the thing. When I said, oh man, that's nice. The maple, if you like maple syrup like I do, but again, it's not. It's just very like Tom said, very very subtle, but it's just nice. It's a nice finish.
And you can, I mean, pour it on ice cream, put it on pancakes. I mean, it's.
Can you light it on
it's got
fire?
Some. I haven't tried that.
I like those
but,
kind of drinks.
Yeah,
I'm sure you
Do you-
can.
I haven't tried that.
Did you really get a medal? Like, did they send you a
Yeah.
bronze
Yeah,
medal,
we just won it, but so we don't have the medal yet. But yes, they will send us a medal.
which he could wear in his next podcast, maybe if it came to
Absolutely.
time?
And I will.
Absolutely.
Just one?
And I will
Absolutely.
be this big. But there's only you
It'd
only
be
need
like
one.
the Flava
You
Flav
only
of
need it.
podcasts.
I'll be Flav for today. I only need one. Now
Sounds
we're
good.
all around town.
Who won the gold and the silver? Do you know?
I don't know.
We don't know
offhand.
them, and if we did,
doesn't
we
I mean,
don't know
I
them.
it's it's.
I wondered if you would just
They
tell me,
did.
but
They if we
No, it wouldn't.
they've
be a secret, I just don't
disappeared in the
remember who they
meantime.
were.
you can look it up. People can
Yeah, you
Google
can
that,
look it up,
right?
Yeah.
When's the next? Do we have another competition coming up?
We'll see what we entered it in, or if, we'll see.
Sky's the limit.
I'd like to get some
Mike,
golds.
you know me. I like a good little confrontation, like a little good
He does.
Yeah,
contest.
He wants to win.
yeah.
He wants a
Nah,
street
why
fight.
not?
And he
Hey,
wants to
we've
win
already
it.
won. We've already won. That's it. The fact, look, I mean, it validates what we've been saying.
If people like it and buy it, that's the real win.
That's it.
You know.
I mean,
Yeah.
and we've been doing it. Look,
I guess.
part of the deal is I told Tom, you get with me, I'll do the dog and pony show sign. We did signings all done in 224, Boardman, Poland, Boardman, and Canfield. I'm going to be doing some more signings next month.
Yeah. Do you know what's next? Do you have any
More
off the
signings.
top of your head?
We're gonna do in Niles.
Oh,
224,
nice.
the
Okay.
Giant Eagles. 'Cause Giant Eagle's been serving, Giant Eagle, Premier Chalet out in North Lima, Billy D'Amico's joint. The Giant Eagle in Poland.
Very good.
We've been doing there. So I mean, I'm gonna, and yeah, we're gonna do them. I do ones that look, people in Youngstown have been wonderful to me, and they support it, and Christmas time was a great time for and then now being the summer, so we'll do it in the summer and get that summer crowd and the summer libations.
Summer of libations.
Like that word, Mom?
Yes. Let's
Libation?
use that.
You didn't know I'm an educated pugilist, did you? I could throw out these 98-cent words now and then.
Right. Well, I'm out of questions, and I just want to congratulate you guys both
thank
on your
you.
from the heart. Congratulations
I appreciate that,
on
man.
you taking that leap
Yeah.
and following through. And I mean, it's a testament to you because you picked the taste of it.
All good. Look, that's the easy part. You got the gentlemen who make it, who present it to you, but they do the whole thing. My son and Andrew do a wonderful job. Anybody, again, if you get a chance to go to Cleveland for a day, there's certain places you visit, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, obviously. Cleveland
Go to an Indians
whiskey.
game, then check
Indians
that out.
game. Cleveland whiskey, man.
What's the website, Tom?
ClevelandWhiskey.com.
That's easy.
Yeah.
And then
How
you
about
can
that?
check for tours on there, right?
Yes.
Oh, we didn't. Oh, can I ask you about Barack Obama coming before we go?
Oh, sure.
So, was he the president at the time?
He was the president. In fact, we think it's the only time a sitting president has ever visited a distillery. Now, George Washington owned a distillery, but it was after he was president. It was funny, too, because we were there. Do we have enough time for a
Yeah,
little bit
no.
of,
We had. Did they
we went down
contact you, or
Bud
did you
Okay.
contact them, or
a
how'd
little
it
bit of
go?
both.
Okay.
And he was in town. He was giving a speech at the Union Club, and we had just started exporting, so he thought that was a good story. Made sort of sense. And he was doing multiple stops, but he was supposed to be there for 4 to 6 minutes. We had the Secret Service was there for 4 days, inspecting everything. They brought the dogs in. We had to open up machinery, sniffed everything, whatever. And he wound up spending, I don't know, half an hour with us.
No
Every
kidding.
time his staff would come up and say, Mr. President, we got to go. We're missing some other stops. He'd put up his hand and say, no, I'm cool. We're going to stay here for a little bit. And but here's the interesting thing. They told me I couldn't give him anything. And I said, well, wait a second. I want to get the press travels with him. I thought it would be really cool to get some video, get some pictures of him getting a bottle of Cleveland whiskey. So I kept pestering them. They finally, they kept saying no. And they finally said, well, well, give us the bottle. We'll make sure he gets it. I really didn't believe it. I'd gotten to know these people over the last couple of days. There was no way they were going to pass along that bottle. And so as I thought about it more, I said, well, number one, I'm the type of person when you tell me no, I can't do something, I want to do it that much more. And then I thought, what's the worst that can happen? If I don't listen to them, if I give them a bottle, the Secret Service, they'll jump me, they'll tackle me, it'll be all over the news, it'll be great publicity. So I said, I'm going to give them a bottle. And the good news is, hiding an extra, they had inventoried everything, but hiding an extra bottle of whiskey in a whiskey distillery is pretty easy to do. So we're going through this tour, and finally I pull out this bottle. I'm looking at the Secret Service, and like they're all giving me this dirty look. And I'm sort of like, come on, guys, this is when you tackle me. That's really what I wanted to happen.
Come on,
and,
really?
No, really, because it would have been great publicity. And but they didn't. So I give them this bottle. I said, and we had all signed it. I said, Mr. President, I'd like to give you this bottle. I said, we're a small group, but we are conservative and liberal, Democrats and Republicans, but we've all signed this. We think of sort of as our bipartisan bourbon. Take it back, share it with members of Congress. Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, he's probably not going to want any, but that's okay. You can share it with other members of Congress. He was very gracious, thanked me and everything else. And then I pull out a second bottle. And before I can say anything, he says, Tom, I know the Secret Service probably told you not to give me anything. He said, not that I mind, but they're probably really getting antsy right now. So what's this all about? And it was just funny. He was very good about it. And I said, well, I said, the first bottle, I said, you can share it with members of Congress, but you need a bottle you can share with your friends. And I almost got a belly laugh out of him. He thought that was pretty good.
It is
as
funny.
opposed to Congress.
Yeah.
And so then, I'm not supposed to say if he ever had any sips while he was there. He was going off to another speech. We did get some of the Secret Service and everything in there later after he left. And we got an order from the White House a couple weeks after.
But we don't know if he tried it. We don't know if he tried it, but he ordered it.
I'm not allowed to
We
say.
don't know.
Sure.
I'm not
We
allowed to
don't
say.
know.
But
If
it was.
he's a
But
whiskey
it
drinker or
doesn't
not.
matter what your politics are. It was amazing having the president there. It was
And
pretty cool.
whatever.
good.
It's an
Yeah.
honor to have the president
Yeah.
come to your
Yeah.
business. Would you ever thought that you would host the president at your
No.
business?
No, never did.
I mean, if
pretty
you think
amazing.
about it.
And up until he got there, it was still tentative. You didn't know what was going to
sure,
happen. And they kept saying, he may not show up or he may spend too long at another, like he did with
Kinda like,
us,
yeah.
and then not make it to yours.
Uh-huh.
But it worked out really nice. Yeah,
Beautiful, man. That's great.
it was a pleasure.
And so I'm sure it's only one of the few distilleries that he's probably.
I don't think he's ever gone to another one, and I don't know of any other president
And
that's
this
gone
is
to one.
why I'm with Cleveland whiskey.
They're important.
There you go.
Well, this was how many years ago?
A couple years now.
A couple years.
Yeah,
Oh, we weren't there yet. All right,
yeah.
He couldn't get the
we
bourbon.
couldn't get in fast enough.
But,
Yeah.
next time.
But Tom, I tell you, I mean, every time I listen to you, I'm more and more educated. I'm honored to be flattered to be associated with you and have a
Same
bourbon
here,
with
Ray.
you. And
It's a great,
thank you.
great
Thank you.
partnership. Yeah.
And look, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, again, we're looking to expand. We're looking to go nationwide.
Yeah.
Little by little, we're looking, again, cities like Chicago. I think just the ones that more sooner than later be Chicago, Boston, Florida, Vegas, New York, L.A.
Well, we're also trying to get the laws changed here in Ohio so we can sell it by e-commerce
oh,
and
so
can
we can-
ship it
oh.
around the world.
Man,
Yeah.
how about that? From distillery to door.
Yeah,
How about that, man?
That ain't bad.
That wouldn't be
I'd never
bad at
leave the
all.
house.
No, man, that's it.
you wouldn't have to.
Get some DoorDash. I'm good.
You can't
Cable
beat that,
TV.
man.
What do I
You
care?
know, that'd be wonderful to get it right straight, straight to the door. That'd be wonderful. So we're working on that, right?
Yeah,
You said
we are. We are.
And as soon as that happens, if it should happen, we will let you know. But Tom, my man,
That's it.
it was wonderful.
Thank
Honest
you.
to God, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you.
What
so
a thrill. Thanks for
Whoops.
coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
We really
and
appreciate it.
again,
And next time, come back again. Bring
Well,
more
bring that.
booch.
Bring another bottle.
Well, yeah, we're good with it.
All right.
Well, look, I hope if anybody's enjoyed the show, please tell your friends. We're on, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, all these other things. After the podcast, you have what is it, Apple, Google, all that good stuff. Yeah, all of those.
Just put in Ray's Boom Boom Room. You'll find
Just
it.
put it, but Ray's Boom Boom Room, not the Boom Boom, Ray's Boom Boom Room, and you'll find it, and you can watch it and get educated like we. Because this show we're trying to do is about people who take the shot, people who have an idea, go with it, see it through fruition, and
Well,
here's the end product.
Speaking of taking the shot,
Let's do it.
How about a toast?
Salud.
Yeah.
Salud.
yeah.
I got you.
I can't bang it down though. I can't. I got
I just get bad shoulders.
I do got bad shoulders, but they feel like $1 million now. But hey,
You're sitting too close.
yeah. But yeah.
Get me right in the arm.
Anything else, Mike?
No, it's perfect.
Tom,
That's good.
anybody
Thank you.
else? Mom, anything you
good.
want to say? You want to send love to anybody back in Chi-Town?
Poor Lauren's mom.
Oh,
All she wanted to do, she didn't even want to come here in the first place. And now you're
she said, I
riding
ain't coming back. I ain't coming back.
She will not be back.
That's what happens when you're in the studio audience.
Hey, that's the best. That's
yeah.
the best
how it
part
goes.
about it. You never know what you're going to get. But, all right. Well, look. Thanks for listening for another round of the Boom Boom Room. Ray's Boom Boom Room. Ray's
get it
Boom
right.
Boom Room. Let me clarify, rectify, and specify. Ray's Boom Boom Room. But thank you for listening for another round. And we'll be back next Tuesday for yet the next round. So until then, take care of each other, love each other. Good night and God bless.